Live from the drama-free true crime destination. No distractions, no detours, just the facts, the fire, and the focus you deserve. This is Saturday night's main event. And welcome back to a fully loaded weekend. Welcome back to Saturday night's main event. Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw here, and it's so good to have you as always here. And like I said, this is the second half of a fully reloaded weekend. Just to give you guys a heads up, I will not be doing any lives until after Thanksgiving. So we'll talk about that at the end, but right now I want to get that out of the way, let you know what's going on for this weekend, and I want to bring you an update to a story that I let you in on last night. So this is how we're going to kick things off, picking up from where we left off last night in the final word. And the update has to do with the homeowner who was charged in a deadly shooting of a house cleaner at the wrong door. All right. I bring the screen to you. And here we go. We're in Boone County, Indiana to kick things off. The man charged with involuntary manslaughter in the fatal shooting of a cleaning worker was given a $25,000 bond with strict conditions in his initial court appearance. Boone County Judge ordered Kurt Anderson to surrender all firearms while the case is pending and prohibited him from possessing any weapons. He was also required to surrender his passport after prosecutors revealed he had spent significant time in Japan during his adult life. Anderson will be placed on level 4 supervision with GPS monitoring, though he will not be under home detention. Anderson faces 10 to 30 years in prison and up to $10,000 in fines if he's convicted of voluntary manslaughter. Prosecutors allege Anderson fired a single shot through his locked front door on November 5th, killing 32-year-old Maria Florinda Rios Perez de Velasquez. According to the probable cause affidavit, Anderson and his wife were awakened by sounds at their front door and believed someone was trying to break in. Anderson told detectives he heard what appeared to be keys, tools, or instrument being used on the front door and could see two people outside through a window. He fired the shot 10 to 15 seconds after retrieving his weapon, telling investigators the people outside were thrusting at the door and becoming more and more aggressive, he admitted. He never announced himself before firing. The affidavit reveals there was no forced entry, no disturbance to the dust on the door, and no evidence of scratches around the lock. Crime scene investigators found Anderson's spent shell casing on the 8th step of the staircase. Velasquez, a cleaning worker, had arrived at Anderson's Whitestown home with her husband, believing they had a scheduled cleaning appointment. Her husband, Mauricio Velasquez, said through a translator that he double-checked the address before arriving. I never thought it was a shot, but I realized when my wife took 2 steps back, he said. She looked like she'd been hit in the head. She fell in my arms, and I saw that the blood went everywhere. The couple had 4 children, with their youngest being 11 months old. The family is seeking to have Velasquez buried in her home country of Guatemala. A pretrial conference has been scheduled for January 23rd. So Kurt Anderson, now that we have a name for this suspect, is bond for $10,000 to appear in court. Plus, he's going to be being monitored by GPS, although he's not detained at home. And this case is one of those stand your ground cases where really anything on the defendant's side just doesn't make sense. It's a case of, you know what happens when you assume, right? All right, now that we got that update out the way, let us move onward and upward to what's going down tonight on Saturday night's main event. First off, a Karen Read update. Ooh, good. All right. Karen Read is filing a lawsuit against former Massachusetts State Trooper Michael Proctor and the Albert family. Let's go to Court TV for this piece of breaking news.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. We'll head to Georgia in just a bit. First, a bit of breaking news out of Massachusetts and Karen Read. She has filed a civil lawsuit alleging that there was a police cover-up in the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe.
Long complaint, 46 pages. It was just filed in the state Superior Court and accuses multiple Massachusetts state police troopers and several Canton residents of conspiring to frame her for a crime she says she did not commit.
The suit names former trooper Michael Proctor in his personal capacity, Sergeant Yuri Buchanan in his personal capacity, Sergeant Brian Tully as well, Brian and Nicole Albert, Jennifer and Matt McCabe, Higgins as well. The list goes out. That's all the defendants. And the lawsuit goes on to repeat claims that we all heard during Read's defense that O'Keefe was killed inside Albert's home and during that party. And then there was a cover-up. There was a cover-up outside, and that Proctor and his colleagues intentionally disregarded evidence to shield them from blame, and it caused Karen Read distress, according to this complaint.
Yeah, I mean, this suit also accuses Proctor of planting evidence. We're going to continue to follow this and have all the developments in this civil situation that took place. Let's go ahead and bring in Marie Pereira to talk about this new filing. It was just filed, 46-page complaint. Marie, are you surprised at this filing?
No, I'm not surprised, because she has to react now, especially after the basically not guilty to the murder verdict. So now she's claiming the prosecution itself was malicious and they planted everything and they conspired to frame her. I think she has a pretty good case, given the fact that Michael Proctor was fired from his position for inappropriate behavior under the capacity of being the lead detective in this. And I think that at the end of the day, the jurors may listen to her side of the story now that she wasn't 100% vindicated, but yes, she was, of that big charge of murder. So she's going after them, and I don't blame her. And keep in mind, the family of John O'Keefe is still going after her in the civil arena too. Yeah. So she's clapping back and saying, I'm not gonna just sit by and let what they did to me go unpunished. Let's do this. Yeah. Let's see what the outcome is.
And if you read some of the things that they're alleging, they're all things we're familiar with watching this trial twice. The conspiracy and cover-up, evidence tampering. Kelly talked about specifically taillight pieces of it. They claim put out there in the snow, the bias. and the misconduct, destruction of evidence. You remember the phones, Higgins and Albert, you know, they got rid of their phones the day before they were supposed to turn them in. I mean, anybody with any common sense is going to, you know, thought during the trial.
Yeah.
That's a little suspicious. When you put it together in this context, without the allegation of murder, it really does have a little there, doesn't it, Marie? And because if this goes to a jury trial, this civil jury will only be critiquing the Commonwealth and specifically those involved in these allegations. And guess what? That's not a fun critique if you're any member of that crew, because there's a lot that went wrong in this investigation.
We say that it went wrong, but maybe it didn't. Maybe that was the plan all along. The plan to destroy the phones, the plan to coordinate a story, the plan to go into that Sally port and put together pieces of the tail light, the plan that the vehicle went through the storm traveling from point A to B, and then a perfect little piece of evidence that was inculpatory to Karen Reed was preserved. People who changed their statements. So when you say it was a mistake, it was no mistake. It was just a bumbling attempt to frame her, and that all of the evidence that was discovered, which led to basically an acquittal for her on the murder charges, is going to help prove the conspiracy, the malicious prosecution against her by them. I think she has a great case with all of the testimony that was gathered in the criminal case.
Marie, she certainly is not a woman who was going to go away quietly.
Absolutely not. She's here to make people be held accountable, because the jury's verdict spoke a lot to what went on too. The people agreed basically there was a conspiracy which ruined the beyond a reasonable doubt standard for the prosecution. So now she's going to take that same energy given to her by the jury and bring it to the civil area and sue them for what they did to her, because they cost her money. Now she's about to cost them money too. I think she has a great case.
Yeah, and the burden's lower in the civil arena, so we'll see. And a reminder, of course, the O'Keefe civil suit is also in play, yes. And we watched the first meeting during that one. That's expected to take a very long time to complete itself, and now this will be part of the mix. So, Karen Reed, never going away.
No.
At Court TV.
Always interesting to talk about. I mean, this case is going to be
one of the most fascinating cases we've ever had, and there's so much divide. Some people are convinced of one thing and others convinced of the other, but there's something about it that just is intriguing. And the more you go down the rabbit hole, the more intriguing it gets. It just keeps feeding the level of interest. And here we go. So,
Marie, thank you so much.
Special thanks to Ted Rollins, Kelly Craft, and Marie Pereira for her insight on this case. But that's just only the tip of the iceberg, considering what we know now. Now that Karen Reed is going after Michael Proctor, the Albert family, etc., and the O'Keefe family are going after her civilly. Here's a shock for you now. We've got dueling civil cases, which is bringing a lot of delays and a lot of confusion. The wrongful death suit against Karen Reed is facing delays now that Reed is involved in a second lawsuit in a different county. As you know, Reed was acquitted on charges of second-degree murder in the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, after prosecutors accused her of hitting him with her Lexus and leaving him to die in the snow after a night out drinking. His body was found on the front lawn at a friend and fellow police officer's home in Canton during a blizzard in the early morning hours of January 29, 2022. While Reed was found not guilty of the criminal responsibility, O'Keefe's family has filed a lawsuit claiming she carries civil liability for his wrongful death and emotional distress. Defendants in that lawsuit also include the two bars where Reed, O'Keefe, and their friends had been out drinking in the hours before his death. Reed, who has steadfastly maintained her innocence in O'Keefe's death, has pointed to the people who are inside the Canton home as her boyfriend's killers. At a hearing in September, Reed's attorney said they plan to add additional parties to the lawsuit, including disgraced former trooper Michael Proctor and the group of friends who were inside the house. Those friends included the Albert and McCabe families and Brian Higgins, who testified at Reed's criminal trials. Obviously, we had wanted all this to resolve itself months ago, Mark Dillard, the attorney for the O'Keefe family, said at Friday's hearing. Unfortunately, it wasn't until Monday night that the defendants withdrew their motion and started on a different track with a different mindset. Instead of adding the parties to the wrongful death lawsuit, Reed wound up filing her own lawsuit in a different county, targeting the so-called House defendants, as well as the investigators and agencies who she says framed her. Despite the fact that O'Keefe's lawsuit is in Plymouth County and Reed's lawsuit is in Bristol County, Dillard proposed consolidating the discovery for both cases to avoid prejudice and create a more efficient process. The problem, however, is that not all the defendants in Reed's lawsuit have been served. Tensions rose briefly at the meeting when one of Reed's attorneys, Charles Waters, accused Dillard of reading from a script off camera. I don't know what he's talking about, to be candid, Waters said. Karen's statement had been consistent with the lawsuit filed in Bristol. Judge Mark Gildea noted while discovery may overlap between the cases, there will be further delays should the defendants in Bristol County case file a motion to dismiss. Judge Gildea set the next court date for December 19th, where the parties will discuss the status of discovery. So we've got one case in Plymouth County. We got another one in Bristol County. They're worried about the fact that these cases may overlap, and there's so much confusion. Instead of me trying to comment on this whole thing, I'm going to wait until we get something solid. We get something certain in that. And when I do, you'll be the first ones to hear it right here at BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded. Next up, in another civil case, we have victims' families filing a lawsuit against Camp Mystic over flood deaths. The operators of Camp Mystic in Texas, where 25 girls and 2 teenage counselors died in a catastrophic flooding on the 4th of July, failed to take necessary steps to protect their campers as life-threatening floodwaters approach. That's what the families of the victims allege in a lawsuit. The lawsuit filed Monday in state court in Austin, Texas, seeks more than $1 million in damages, but does not specify an exact amount. It was filed as Camp Mystic has drawn renewed outrage from several victims' families over plans to reopen the 100-year-old camp next summer. Among the claims in the lawsuit, that is, a groundskeeper was directed to spend more than an hour evacuating equipment while girls and counselors in cabins closest to the Guadalupe River were ordered to remain there, even as floodwaters overwhelmed their property. The lawsuit was filed by the families of 5 campers and the 2 counselors who died. These young girls died because a for-profit camp put profit over safety, the lawsuit said. The camp chose to house young girls in cabins sitting in flood-prone areas, despite the risk, to avoid the cost of relocating the cabins. The suit also alleges the operators of the camp chose not to make plans to safely evacuate campers, despite state rules requiring such plans, and instead ordered campers and counselors to remain in their cabins as a matter of policy. Defendants named in the lawsuit include Camp Mystic, affiliated entities, and its owners, including the estate of camp owner Richard Eastland, who also died in the flooding, and his family members. A similar lawsuit with similar allegations was filed Monday by the family of Eloise Peck, another Camp Mystic camper who died in the flood. Both lawsuits were filed in Travis County. An attorney for Camp Mystic said in a statement that they empathize with the families who lost loved ones in the flood, but they disagree with several accusations and misinformation in the legal filings. We intend to demonstrate and prove that this sudden surge of floodwaters far exceeded any previous flood in the area by several magnitudes, that it was unexpected, and that no adequate warning systems existed in the area, said Jeff Ray, the legal counsel for Camp Mystic. The campers and counselors were killed when the fast-rising floodwaters roared through a low-lying area of the summer camp before dawn on the 4th of July. All told, the destructive flooding killed at least 136 people, raising questions about how things went so terribly wrong. County leaders were asleep or out of town. The head of Camp Mystic had been tracking the weather beforehand, but now it's unclear whether he saw an urgent warning from the National Weather Service that had triggered an emergency alert to phones in the area. That's according to a spokesman for the camp's operators in the immediate aftermath. The camp, established in 1926, did not evacuate and was hit hard when the river rose from 14 feet to 29.5 feet within 60 minutes. Ryan DeWitt, whose daughter Molly DeWitt was one of the campers killed in the flooding, said in a statement that the lawsuit is a step toward helping the family find peace. We trust that through this process, light will be shed on what happened, and our hope is that justice will pave the way for prevention and much-needed safety reform, DeWitt said. The deaths of the campers and counselors and the gut-wrenching testimony from their parents to Texas lawmakers led to a series of new laws designed to prevent similar tragedies in the future. That is a harrowing development. And I got to say, first off, my condolences to all the families who lost loved ones in that tragic loss at Camp Mystic. But as far as my opinion goes regarding this, whether the camp is for-profit or non-profit, they should have taken steps to make sure there was safety protocols in place to protect everybody involved. Property is property that can be replaced with money and with time, but those lives cannot. And that's what makes this such a terrible story here. And if there's anything worse, no matter how these lawsuits end, no amount of money is going to bring those lives back. Next on the docket, a judge cites substantial evidence in denying Corey Richards' request for bail.
And can expect a high of 50 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 38 degrees.
Okay, looks like this one. No, this is rather short. But as you can see from the screen for this video, no bond. Corey Richards should be used to jail. I believe that's part of Julie's opening statement. So I'm going to take you to Julie Grant And we're gonna hear
She may never get out. Children's grief book author and criminal defendant Corey Richens may never, ever get out from behind bars. The judge has once again denied her bond. And if she's convicted of murdering her husband, Eric, then behind bars is where she will continue to stay for the rest of her life. Richens' recent bond request cited as a reason that a drug dealer witness has recanted his story about selling drugs to her housekeeper. The state of Utah believes that Richens got the fentanyl used to kill Eric from her housekeeper, who they say got it from said recanting drug dealer witness. Well, the judge was unpersuaded by that argument, saying that even if the defense claims about the drug dealer recanting his story are true, there's still plenty of other evidence to substantiate the allegations against Ms. Richens. Like, for instance, her being in financial distress at the time of Eric's death. That could have been motive for the killing. Prosecutors allege that she forged Eric's signature on a life insurance policy application right before he died. Prosecutors have also said that there was a failed poisoning attempt on Eric's life the month before he was actually killed. And even Eric himself reportedly told his family that if he died, to look at Corey because he thought she was trying to kill him. So, I say Ms. Richens should not only move on from her bond quest, but I think she should start practicing getting used to life behind bars. When her trial starts up in February, I hope that justice is served for her husband, Eric Richens, and for those 3 little boys who so unfairly lost their dad.
And as she would end it, that's her opening statement. Let her know if you like it. You can respond to her on X at Julie Grant ESQ or at Julie Court TV. As far as Corey Richards goes and her fight to be bonded out, let's see. Judge Richard Mrazek said in his written decision denying the defense motion that a reasonable jury might not believe the drug dealer's change of story. He also said the defense fails to acknowledge or address the other evidence from which a reasonable jury could find defendant had a motive to commit the crime charged and exhibited consciousness of guilt. Evidence prosecutors have already presented against Corey includes sworn testimony from the housekeeper and records showing Corey's financial distress at the time of Eric's death. While the defendant may be able to use the witness' recent recantation to poke holes in the state's case, the holes are not substantial enough to undermine the court's prior determination regarding substantial evidence. And as Julie mentioned, Corey Richards' murder trial is scheduled to begin in February of 2026. Good luck. Good luck, Corey. You're going to need every last bit of it. Next up, actor Danny Masterson. You remember him from That 70s Show? Well, he is asking for rape convictions to be tossed due to lawyer errors. All right. Here's what's happening with that. That 70s Show actor Danny Masterson filed a petition Monday for his 2 rape convictions and long prison sentence to be thrown out and introduce essential evidence. Habeas corpus filed with California's Second District Court of Appeal argues that lawyer Philip Cohen did not represent Masterson properly at the 2023 retrial that ended with the actor being convicted of raping 2 women at his Los Angeles home in 2003. He was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. The petition also argues that the trial judge demonstrated a bias against the Church of Scientology, allowing an unconstitutional intrusion into the church's doctrine and a misinterpretation of its scripture. Masterson is a member of the church whose practices were a major issue at his trial, and the women are former members. The petition says that Cohen spoke to only 2 of the potential 20 witnesses brought to his attention by his co-counsel and an investigator. It says the witnesses included some who would have testified that the women spoke favorably of the sexual relationships they had with Masterson, and they included psychological and pharmacological experts who would have testified about the effects of alcohol and drugs on memory. The court filing says there was unexpected and unreasonable failure of trial counsel to present any of the mountain of exculpatory evidence that had been amassed by Masterson's pretrial attorney Sean Hawley, and the result was a violation of his constitutional rights. Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Charlene F. Olmedo declined to delay Masterson's first trial to accommodate Hawley's representation of former Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher Trevor Bauer against his own allegations of sexual misconduct. Cohen then took over as lead attorney. Masterson's first trial ended in a mistrial with the jury unable to reach a consensus on any of the 3 rape counts against him. He was promptly retried and the jury found him guilty of 2 counts but failed to reach a verdict on the 3rd. Cohen did not immediately respond to an email seeking comment on the petition, nor did an attorney for the women. The unfairness of the second Masterson trial was the result of prosecutorial misconduct, judicial bias, and the failure of defense counsel to present exculpatory evidence. Eric Malthrop, the attorney who filed the petition for Masterson, said this in a statement. The jury only heard half the story, the prosecution side. Danny deserves a new trial where the jury can hear his side as well. The petition says Olmedo erred in allowing the prosecution to negatively cast the Church of Scientology as a force of intimidation. It alleges that Cohen also did not present available evidence that would counter the portrayal. Masterson's new motion is separate from his main appeal to the same court, which is pending. The 49-year-old is serving his sentence at the California Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo. He will not be eligible for parole for more than 20 years. Masterson starred with Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis, and Topher Grace in That 70s Show from 1998 to 2006. He reunited with Kutcher in the 2016 Netflix comedy The Ranch, but was written off the show when the LA Police Department investigation was revealed the following year. This is one of those cases that you really don't know what's for sure until everything comes out. The question of whether Masterson deserves another trial or not remains to be seen. So we wait. We wait. We get more information, and we bring it here to BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded. Now we got a couple stories regarding the death of Anna Kepler. We have a step sibling who could face charges, and then right after that, an attorney is very concerned with the circumstances. Let's start with the filing first. All right. Okay, this is perfect. This will help out my cause. We're going to take you right to Julie Grant and her panel of experts as we look at this. Look at this.
Now, for what's trending in true crime, we've got some new information coming out about the cruise ship death of 18-year-old Anna Kepner. It indicates that Anna was staying in the same room as the suspect, her 16-year-old stepbrother. Her body reportedly found underneath a bed inside of her cabin and possibly covered up with blankets and life jackets. The parents of the stepbrother in question have admitted that their son is a suspect. They're in a custody battle over their two minor children, so we're pulling the court documents. And during a custody hearing, the attorney for Anna's ex-husband, Thomas Hudson, spoke out about what was allegedly happening on the cruise. And you can see the mother in the top right corner of the hearing. We want to show it to you. Let's look.
Your Honor, it's our understanding that because the cruise was in international waters, that the young child, not the 9-year-old, but the 16-year-old was allowed to drink. The teenagers were given their own room in which to stay. Just a lot of circumstances that showed that the mother in this case was not exercising appropriate supervision over this child or the other child involved.
Reports online indicate that another male sibling was also staying in the same room with Anna and the 16-year-old suspect. So these two boys were apparently sleeping in the cabin with Anna dead underneath the bed. It's a grim thought. But what can we learn from the cabin itself? Let's talk about this. Let's bring in our power panel. I want to welcome in now Professor Mike Alcazar, also retired NYPD detective, and attorneys, both practicing criminal defense in the private sector, and former prosecutors, Joe Tamburino and David Bruno. Good morning to you all. Let's start with the cabin and what we can learn about this. These cabins, if anyone watching at home has ever been on a cruise ship, they are tight, small spaces. Detective Alcazar, your thoughts starting there, please.
Well, as the responding investigator, I would definitely canvass for surveillance, examine the scene. Hopefully, by the time the ship pulled into port, the staff didn't disturb this crime scene. So, you know, from what we're hearing, it looks like it was staged. Somebody was trying to hide something. So it would lead me to believe that, you know, this could have been something maybe perhaps accidental and they panicked, or it could have been a homicide and they panicked. So I think there's going to be a lot of DNA evidence that will be gathered and processed from that scene.
Oh, most definitely. Joe Tamburino, let me go to you next. Your thoughts about the cabin and the sleeping arrangements with these young people.
Well, good morning, Julie. Thanks for having me on. Oh, I have a number of problems with the whole thing. I mean, you know, number one, why are you putting all these young kids together with alcohol? She's not old enough to drink. You have step siblings there. I mean, I just think the supervision was lacking. That's number one. Number two, I agree with the detective. It looks like obviously this body was planted there. I'm also wondering, well, why put it under the bed? I mean, you're on a cruise ship. You got the whole ocean outside. Why didn't this person just dump the body into the ocean? And lastly, what a forensics nightmare being on a cruise ship. I've only been on one cruise. I really don't like cruises, but how could you do a forensic examination of a crime scene on a cruise? Because there are no trained police officers or investigators. I mean, yeah, they've got security, but it's pretty minimal.
That's another great point, Joe. Thank you. The New York Post is reporting this morning that Anna's stepbrother was obsessed with her. Anna's ex-boyfriend claims that he saw that stepbrother climb on top of her once during a FaceTime phone call. David Bruno, your thoughts on the arrangements for bedtime with these kids and what we can learn from that cabin?
Well, I'll tell you, well, we're not learning anything from the FBI, that's for sure. I was on last week, and we were playing a statement from the biological father of Anna, still in the dark. And I wonder if that's changed at all. But what we're learning now, I mean, look at that first piece that we played. This is coming from the custody battle of Anna's father's new wife, right? The new wife's got that stepson in the cabin right there. And if true, if this new report about the prior attraction and physical touching and things like that, if that's true, wow, what concern I have about even putting them together. Also, we are 14 days from her death. How in the world are we still asking these questions if that evidence is true, that they have her body and that there's prior incidents involving this 16-year-old? I don't know what's taking so long to come to a decision.
Yeah, this is really upsetting stuff. So Anna's biological mother, who, remember, she's not on this cruise adventure. Her biological mother spoke to WESH TV in Orlando about her daughter's death. Let's take a listen.
She always wanted to make people laugh. She loved the water. We were constantly going to the lake here where I live, so she can go swimming. I found out through Google, because I ended up Googling it, because all the information the only information I had was my daughter was on a cruise.
All right, so let's take a look at the family tree. So this is a blended family. We're going to start with Christopher Kepner and Heather Wright. Okay, so we just heard from Heather Wright on that little voice clip we just played. So these two are the parents of Anna Kepner. They separated. Christopher later married Tabitha Kepner, and they have 2 children together. Those are Anna's half siblings. Then Christopher married Chantel Hudson. Chantel was previously married to Thomas Hudson. Now, we don't know how many children they had, but we do know that Chantel moved to Titusville with the youngest 2 children, and that those 2 children of Thomas and Chantel are Anna's step-siblings, one of them being that 16-year-old boy who is suspected in having something to do with Anna's death. Now, Anna's ex-boyfriend spoke to reporters after Anna's funeral, which was just yesterday, and said that the stepbrother was obsessed with Anna.
Whenever I was on FaceTime with her, and I was on FaceTime with her, and she was laying down, and the brother tried to go on top of her.
Okay, so Anna's stepmother says that her son spent some time in the hospital right after the cruise for an undisclosed reason, and that he has a psychiatrist appointment coming up early next month. So we're asking, does it sound like some charges are on the way for this young man? Detective Alcazar, what do you say?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a possibility. Again, depending on what the DNA evidence reveals, did Anna have any kind of like defensive wounds that they can, attach to this this suspect? They're going to look at, again, the domestic turmoil history. They're going to corroborate the statement that that ex-boyfriend just said. So they're going to try to establish, was there like some kind of pattern of violence that, that can help perhaps for courtroom testimony?
Right. Joe, your thoughts. Do you think this young man should expect charges?
Likely, I would say, sure. I mean, because of the whole situation. But again, it's a forensic nightmare. I mean, where are the videos in this boat? I mean, when you have a ship at sea, you're in international waters. I mean, even if the ship has an American flag, which many of them don't, they're all registered out of Panama or some other country. This could be really problematic. I mean, was this scene preserved? Did they go to the neighboring cabins? Did they look at all the videos? I mean, these ships have video cameras everywhere. Were those viewed? Were they taken by police? So, again, it's just a nightmare for an investigation.
Definitely, Joe. David Bruno, your thoughts? Does this kid need a lawyer?
Yeah, we also know in the family filing that the mother has invoked the Fifth Amendment. That is, that's fine, but Fifth Amendment does not apply to the protection of her child either in Florida. There's only a small handful of states that honor a privilege between the parent and the child. Florida's not one of them. So in the event that she does have information about the minor, then there is a way to compel her to testify and the threat of contempt to get information from her if she has it against her child.
David, thanks. I have a statement from the cruise line on Anna Kepner's death. It says, quote, Carnival Cruise Line is fully cooperating with the Miami office of the FBI. It is up to the FBI's Miami Public Affairs Office to provide further details. Our focus is on supporting the family of our guest. And that cruise ship has already set sail on another voyage. Detective Alcazar, is that at all problematic that that crime scene has essentially been released?
Yeah, we seen that in the Coburger case, right, where they demolished the house. Now here they're putting that room back up, in the cruise. So hopefully, like our colleague said, they hopefully process this very daunting crime scene and gathered all the evidence before they released it. I'm imagining they did if they're releasing it. So hopefully they did their due diligence and process the crime scene, to the best of their ability.
Right. Great insight from all of you. We'll report any more information as we're following this case very closely here at Court TV.
Follow this case very closely as well. But also, like I mentioned earlier, there are attorneys who are there's an attorney who's very concerned with circumstances around Anna Kepler's death on that very cruise ship. Yeah, but it's still going to tell us the same things we've already covered. So let's go right to the article. We'll see where the concern lies. Well, this is the document filed by Chantel Hudson in a custody case states discussions with FBI investigators and her attorneys that a criminal case may be initiated against one of the minor children in this instant action. That action being against one of her step siblings, the 16-year-old boy. Another document filed by Hudson's ex-husband in response to the motion states the 16-year-old child is now suspected in the death of the stepchild during the cruise. The details of Anna Kepler's death has not been released by authorities. Following news of her death, Carnival released a statement that read in part that our focus remains on supporting the family of our guests and cooperating with the FBI. I really truly hope they do. They do keep cooperating with it, because any information that can lead to arresting the right person is highly, highly valuable. Next on the docket, a former housekeeper of Alex Murdaugh is revealing family secrets in a brand new book. Sounds like someone is spilling some tea on what Alex Murdaugh was going through before his prison sentence. And we're going to go right back to Julie Grant for this opening statement spotlight. We're going to see exactly what this housekeeper has to say.
We're learning more about the Alec Murdaugh case from one of the people who lived it, his housekeeper. The once wealthy and powerful attorney was convicted of murdering his wife, Maggie, and their son, Paul. But still, so many questions remain about the inner workings of the Murdaugh family. Like, what really went on behind closed doors? The family's housekeeper of 14 years, Blanca Simpson, was there and has just published a book, Within the House of Murdaugh, amid a unique friendship, Blanca and Maggie. And we're so pleased to welcome Blanca Simpson on Opening Statements. Blanca, thank you for doing this interview with me. So what was it like working for the Murdaughs?
It was fun. It was, they were the no worries attitude. Just like a regular family.
Did they treat you well?
Very well. They were very well. They treated me very well, and they were very nice.
So were there no red flags, so to speak, that would have been perceptible by anybody leading up to that dreadful day?
There's been so many things being said all over about her and her issues with overdrafting her account, whether she knew about the money. They had a system in place where Alec deposited money in her account. Maggie never really, it was not a big issue if she ran low on money in her account. She would always joke around sometimes saying, hey, I'm always bouncing checks.
Blanca, let's talk about the day that Maggie and Paul were murdered. How did you find out?
I found out the next morning when Alex called me to tell me.
What did he say?
I was getting ready to leave. I was ironing my husband's clothes for work, and once I got done, I went in the bathroom and my phone rang, and I thought it was kind of odd that Alec was calling me early that morning, but I didn't pay it no attention. I figured, well, maybe Maggie's using his phone since hers was always on zero charge because she used it a lot. And so I picked it up, and I could hear his voice cracking in the background and crying. And, the words, they're gone, B, they're gone. And it never dawned on me, what he was saying. I just assumed that she had left early, that they had left early and gone to Edisto. I didn't know. I didn't know what he was trying to say. It didn't even cross my mind that that's what he was trying to tell me. Mm-hmm. Until he said it, no, B, then after I told him, I said, did they go back to Edisto? He said, no, B, they're dead. And there was like a blank moment. I don't remember. Like I said, I dropped the phone, and my husband picked it up, and he was trying to ask me, what's going on. And I remember picking up the conversation where I said, where are you at? He said, I'm at Mom and Dad's house, Almeda. I said, okay. I said, I'll be right over. And I hung up the phone, and I finished getting dressed. I told my husband what was going on. Got in my truck and drove to Almeda, where him and Buster were at.
Blanca, when did you start to suspect that he did this?
It was, I didn't really want to believe it. That I was still in denial. This is not the way that the way that he was being portrayed and all the things that were being said about him. I was having a hard time with. I was having a hard time with myself, you know, thinking that he could have done these things. I was just having a hard time rationalizing what was going on. I didn't want to believe it up until the moment I saw the towel in his truck. And I remember...
Tell us what towel.
There was the Edisto beach towel that was in his Suburban was one of the 4 towels that I had laundered to go back to Edisto. And I remember bits and pieces from some of the trial, and I remember hearing Creighton Waters saying that you were a busy man or something like that during, you know, you didn't take any steps and all of a sudden you became real busy during a short period of time. And I began to think, I said, because I had found the pajamas laying in the middle of the doorway and, you know, nobody really paid it any mind when I did bring it to their attention. And then looking at the towel in there, I knew that he was the one that was going in and out of the laundry room. So that's when I changed my mind. That's when I knew. When I saw that towel, I knew, because I never saw that towel again. And I asked about the towel. And nobody could tell me.
Did you ever ask Alex directly?
No. At that point, I hadn't spoken. This was after the trial. I think the last time I spoke to Alec was via text, and that was probably when he was on his way to rehab. I hadn't spoken to him.
Blanca, we saw you testify at his trial. How tough was that for you?
It was hard. Right there across from me was a man that I thought I knew, and who was good to me, who was good to my family, who had helped me. And it was, I had some conflict with that, because to this day, I mean, what he did was wrong, but he also helped, you know, and he was good to me, and he would be quick to defend me if anybody said anything. You know, he was always there for me. So it was really hard, but I knew that I had to answer the questions that I was going to be asked, and be as truthful as I possibly could.
Right.
You know.
Blanca, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
It was hard to accept. And it was hard to see him on the other side, you know, of that table.
Right. Sure.
From the powerful attorney and the respected attorney that he was, to that, you know, sitting there. It was hard. I mean, it was emotional. My insides felt like Jell-O, even though on the outside it was, you know, I was trying to be as calm as possible, but my insides were just, it's hard to explain. It's like there's several emotions going through you, and your stomach is just in a knot. And I was nervous. I was just trying to be as calm as I possibly could, but I was still nervous.
Sure.
And they're a powerful family.
Yeah, understandably so that you were nervous. Blanca, last question for you, please. It's our understanding that you are caring for Maggie's dog. Is that right?
Yes. He's right here at my feet on the other side of the desk.
You can pick him up if you want. I don't know how big he is, but he's welcome to join you in the shot if you want to.
He's
show him.
huge. He's 104, but I'm
Oh,
gonna.
you'll leave him sitting there then.
We can turn it around a little bit so you can see it. See him
Sure.
laying right there.
What's his name, Blanca?
His nickname is Bubba.
Bubba. Oh, this is Bubba. Oh, look at sweet Bubba. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I know he's in the very best hands with you, Blanca. Blanca Simpson, thank you so much for the conversation, for the love you're giving that dog. He certainly needs it. And every good wish with the publication of your memoir. There it is on the screen. And I believe that's Bubba pictured with you within the house of Murdoch amid a unique friendship, Blanca and Maggie. Oh, and I know you remember from the trial, Alec Murdoch was saying Bubba's name on that Snapchat video found in Paul's phone, and that ultimately helped lead to the convictions.
That was a pretty good interview with Blanca Simpson, the housekeeper of Alex Murdoch. And she has a new book out, Within the House of Murdoch, amid a unique friendship, Blanca and Maggie. And that's got to be out in bookstores right now. Currently, Alex Murdoch is behind bars. It's not only for the murders of Maggie and of his wife Maggie and her son Paul, but for financial crimes as well. Currently, Alex Murdoch is competing his convictions. Next up, reports say that singer David is considered a suspect in the death of a teenager. Now, I covered this briefly, but there's more information to be told. David is allegedly considered a Tesla registered to the singer. An LAPD source told NBC Los Angeles that David, whose legal name is David Anthony Burke, is considered a suspect and hasn't been cooperating in the investigation. In September, the Associated Press reported that the decomposed body of 15-year-old Celeste Hernandez was found inside an impounded Tesla that was registered to 20-year-old Burke. The body was discovered September 8th at a toll lot in Hollywood after someone noticed the stench coming from the Tesla. That's according to news outlets and police. Rivas Hernandez was last seen in April 2024 in Lake Elsinore, about 60 miles southeast of downtown Los Angeles. She was 13 at the time. David is a Houston-born singer-songwriter who went from recording music in his sister's closet to becoming Gen Z's most buzzed-about artist. He broke through in 2022 with the hit Romantic Homicide, which went viral on TikTok and peaked at number 4 on Billboard's Hot Rock and Alternative Songs charts. He then followed with Here With Me, which further cemented his moody, emotional style. Each of those two songs has racked up more than 1.5 billion streams on Spotify. David has since signed with Darkroom and Interscope, home to Billie Eilish, and released his EP Petals to Thorns and a follow-up, The Lost Petals, in 2023. He released his first full-length album, Withered, in April. I wonder what how that's gonna do now with possible charges looming. Sounds like another wait and see deal. Next up, a Florida man is, this is a crazy one. I may need a trigger warning for this. A Florida man is accused of kidnapping and murdering a UK woman from a fetish website. This case already sounds weird. All right. Let me see. A Florida man is facing serious charges after police say he kidnapped a woman from the United Kingdom. Myrtle Dwayne Hall is charged with first-degree murder and kidnapping in the death of Sonia Exelby, who was first reported missing from her home in Portsmouth, England on October 13th. Investigators from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement say Hall and Exelby met online via a fetish website and had communicated for approximately 2 years before Exelby bought a plane ticket and came to the United States. Exelby had a history of mental health problems and had previously attempted suicide, investigators said in court records reviewed by Court TV. When she disappeared in October, she left evidence on her computer indicating that she was again suicidal and traveling to the United States to be possibly sexually abused, tortured, and murdered by unknown individuals living in the United States. Detectives searching for Exelby found that there had been several attempted charges on her debit card from Solver Wolf's roadside assistance, where Hall is the only employee. When detectives confronted Hall, he initially denied knowing Exelby before eventually admitting that he picked her up from the airport and brought her to the Airbnb she had booked, where they had sex. He described the sex as vanilla and consensual, though he initially told police that he didn't want to have sex with the victim because he is married. Hall also told officers that while he used to have violent tendencies, they had gone away when his wife became ill over the summer. Investigators say digital evidence contradicts Hall's claims that his behavior is consensual. A deleted video is found on Hall's phone that's more than 4 minutes long, allegedly shows the victim disheveled and covered in bruises and abrasions. This is how you want to die, right? Hall can be heard asking in the video. You want to be beaten and made to suffer because you're such a piece of shit? While Hall told police that Exelby had left with an unknown man in a tan Cadillac Eldorado, detectives found evidence telling a different story. Her remains were found buried in a wooded area of Marion County, and blood on a newly purchased shovel in Hall's possession matched Exelby. Police say they found a murder weapon thanks to a phone call between Hall and his wife after his arrest, where he said to look out for a package for a friend in Ohio. Investigators say Hall mailed a package to his friend containing a 7-inch tanto knife designed for piercing and stabbing. An analysis on the weapon tested positive for Exelby's DNA. Hall's pleaded not guilty and is being held without bond. His next court date is scheduled for December 23rd, according to jail records. Now, I don't know what he was thinking, but a lot of all that contradictory evidence screams, I did it. But I want to see what more evidence. I want to see more receipts, as the kids say. So I'm going to wait until more evidence comes out, and when it does, you can best believe, I will bring it to you right here. Next on the docket, the Gonzalez family. Kaylee Gonzalez's family. Remember that name? Or maybe the next name I mention this, it should come to your mind. Kaylee Gonzalez's family is planning to file a lawsuit against the school that taught Brian Kohlberger. That's right, they plan to sue the University of Washington. And for this one, we're going right back to Julie Grant.
The family of the late Kaylee Gonzalez now suing Washington State University, the school where killer Brian Kohlberger studied criminology as a PhD student. They want to know about Kohlberger's past behaviors towards some people at the university, some of which included stalking women and being rude to students as a teaching assistant. Washington State University is only about 7 miles away from the University of Idaho, and that is where, of course, Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogen, Xana Cornoto, and Ethan Chapin were stabbed to death inside of their off-campus home just a little more than 3 years ago. Gonzalez turned the podium at Kohlberger's sentencing and spoke directly to the killer.
The world's watching because of the kids, not because of you. Nobody cares about you. You're not worth the time, the effort to be remembered. In time, you will be nothing but 2 initials forgotten to the wind. No visitors, nothing more than initials on an otherwise unmarked tombstone. From this moment, we will forget you. We want to all leave in closing. One last thing. You picked the wrong family, and we're laughing at you on your trip to Penn. That will be today or tomorrow.
Of course, that was Steve Gonzalez, Kaylee's father. Brian Kohlberger serving 4 consecutive life sentences, and he owes money and fines and restitution to the victims' families. So what does the Gonzalez family hope to achieve with their lawsuit? Let's talk about it with our legal analyst guests, David Bruno and Joe Tamburino, with us. David, your thoughts on the filing of this suit and what it hopes to achieve?
When I first heard about this, I was like, oh, how can that be stretched to Washington State? Then I started to read the documents that we recently got released after. And Court TV has a great piece on this too, about the complaints that Washington State got from, there's 13 complaints there from professors and students about his behavior and concerning behavior. So there is a leg to stand on here moving forward. And if they can get past the motion to dismiss, the early motions that defendants typically file, they're going to be able to get information through discovery, interrogatories, depositions, notice to producers. They may get some answers that we never got from the prosecution because of the plea deal that cut the death penalty off the table, which I think we're all critical of still.
Definitely, David. The school we know did fire Kohlberger for some behavioral problems when he was a teaching assistant. Joe, your thoughts on whether this lawsuit will have legs?
I think it could have legs. I mean, in any lawsuit, it's basically you need this. First, you need notice so that the person who's the defendant in the case, the person who you're suing, was on notice that something is wrong, say. Then you need a failure to act, that they didn't act on this. And next, you need that it's all based on negligence. So through discovery, as David mentioned, if you can show that the university was on notice that this guy has violent tendencies, hates women, some type of violent problems, and the university failed to act based on their negligence, yes, it could have legs. The big thing is going to be the summary judgment motion. I mean, I think the school is going to do two motions. One is they'll make a motion to dismiss the complaint just like that. I think that'll fail. But then they'll go through a discovery process, and then they'll try to do a summary judgment motion, meaning that the defendant is going to say, look, regardless of what the discovery shows, there's no claim here, Judge. So if it makes it past summary judgment, yes, this definitely has legs.
I appreciate that analysis, Joe. So thinking about Kohberger, I think a lot of us think, were there red flags that might have been missed? I think we all say, hindsight's 20/20, right? But is there something just that may be a bit satisfying about just kind of looking back and seeing, was there anything that was missed with him that could have been a preventative factor here? David, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is what we're talking about. I mean, he was a PhD student studying there. He was a teacher's assistant as well. I mean, he had responsibility and authority within those circles as well. So that makes it even more puzzling, the sheer violence that was used and the studying of this. We have to look back on this. We have to learn from this. We have to look at all of these curriculums and all these students. And I think every single one of the curriculums all across the country should at least have some awareness to the fact that it may be someone trying to learn criminology for the wrong reasons.
I appreciate it, David. Apparently, there was even a tally board in a student office that was being used to track Kohberger's discriminatory comments. And some female students avoided being alone with him. So if they're tracking, the things he's saying and all that, tells me he was on people's radars. Joe, final thoughts on this and whether we'll learn more than we do right now.
Well, what you just said is the crucial point, which is on the radar, but on the radar for what? If this was some type of sexual discrimination case or something like that, yes, I would say right now it's got excellent legs, because you got all these complaints about how Kohberger, may have made some sexist or racial comments. So yes, with something like that. But was it on the radar for homicide, for murder, for use of a dangerous weapon? That's going to be the crucial issue. So, I mean, I think it's important for the victims to do this suit. I can totally understand why, but I do think it's going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah, appreciate it, Joe. We, of course, as always, send every good wish to the Gonsalves family and all of the families of those victims of this atrocious conduct. And we'll keep watching it as the suit progresses.
As will BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded, and in my opinion, given those 13 complaints against Kohberger as a teacher's assistant, yeah, I think they've got plenty of legs to stand on. And plus these four convictions for murder. All right, next on the docket is a case that is still irking my nerves. Earlier this week, a judge dismisses a false imprisonment charge against Ashley Buzzard, the mother of missing Melody Buzzard. Melody is still missing, yet mom's still not saying anything. Melody folks have her electronic monitoring discontinued and the felony charge against her dismissed. Santa Barbara Superior Court Judge Stephen Dunkel made the ruling Thursday in a lumped courtroom following more than 2 hours of testimony in Ashley Buzzard's preliminary hearing. The hearing was the third and now final in just over a week following Buzzard's November 7 arrest. The media was only allowed to take pictures during the hearing. No video or audio recording was permitted, and photographs of the alleged victim were also prohibited. The felony charge stemmed from a November 6th incident at Buzzard's Mars Avenue home involving a man identified as Tyler S. Brewer. In court, he said he was a legal document assistant and freelance paralegal. While on the stand, Brewer described approximately 5 visits he made to Buzzard's home between November 1st and 6th, after reaching out to her and offering assistance should she need it. He told the court he first met Buzzard back in 2014 while friends with Buzzard's then roommate. The focus of Thursday's hearing was on Brewer's testimony. He said he felt threatened by Buzzard on the evening of November 6th while at Buzzard's home for more than an hour. He claims Buzzard's demeanor changed during their conversation and that she had a box cutter and he wasn't allowed to leave. Buzzard denied the charges, which authorities say are unrelated to the missing child investigation involving her 9-year-old daughter, Melody. The judge ultimately ruled to dismiss the criminal complaint against Buzzard and terminate pretrial supervision. The GPS device was placed on Buzzard last week following another judge's ruling that she could be released from custody. The judge stated that an audio recording taken of Buzzard from the last night Brewer was at her home did not show enough evidence for Brewer to have been in fear. The judge also noticed he was not trying to invalidate anyone's lived experiences. Meanwhile, authorities have said the investigation into Melody's disappearance remains ongoing. That investigation began October 14th when local school officials reported the girl's prolonged absence. With the assistance from the FBI, the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office, he has said Buzzard took a 3-day road trip with her daughter Melody as far east as Nebraska, leaving on October 7th and returning on October 10th without Melody. They said Buzzard changed license plates at least once during the trip and also changed wigs. Buzzard's home has been searched by authorities 3 times since October 14th, along with her rental car and a storage unit. Authorities have not said whether any items of interest were located during those searches. The Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office has said the case remains an open missing persons case and not a criminal investigation. So basically, let's call spade a spade, ladies and gentlemen. Ashley Buzzard must be the luckiest woman on the planet. She's still not arrested for anything having to do with Melody's disappearance. She lucked out on this because there was not enough evidence. And here's today, November 22nd, and Melody is still missing. So I get to call on you guys to help. If you're in the Santa Barbara area and you have any information at all on the disappearance of Melody Buzzard, please, as I always say, do not hesitate. You're asked to call 911 immediately. You can reach the FBI's 24-hour tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI, 225-5324. You can submit a tip online at tips.fbi.gov. Locally, oh wait, before I get to that, you can also call the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. That number is 1-800-THE-LOST, 1-800-843-5678, or go to www.missingkids.org. Now, on the local end, you are asked to get in contact with the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Criminal Investigations Division. That number is 805-681-4150. Or you can go to Santa Barbara Sheriff's tip line at 805-681-4171, and you can remain anonymous. If you want to do it that way, you can go through www.sbsheriff.org/home/anonymous-tip. Again, that address is www.sbsheriff.org/home/anonymous-tip. It's been a full month since Melody was missing, has been reported missing, and it's time we bring her home. So please, if you see something, please say something. That way, we can do something to bring Melody Buzzard home. Next up on the docket, we have an indictment. A man has been indicted on a murder charge in the death of King of the Hill voice actor Jonathan Joss. A grand jury in Texas has indicted the man accused of killing King of the Hill voice actor Jonathan Joss on a murder charge. But it is unclear whether Joss's killing will be considered a hate crime. Comment Wednesday on whether its investigation had determined Cherokee County District Attorney's Office declined to comment on the matter. Police allege Cifredo Sea Alvarez, age 57, confronted Joss and his husband on June 1st as they were checking their mail at their San Antonio home, which had been burned down in January. Joss's husband, Tristan Kern de Gonzalez, has claimed the person who killed the actor yelled violent homophobic slurs before opening fire. Sea Alvarez's attorneys did not immediately return emails seeking comment Wednesday. In June, Alfonso Otero, one of Sea Alvarez's attorneys, said his client was innocent and denied making any homophobic statements. The grand jury returned the indictment Monday, and Sea Alvarez remains free on a $200,000 bond. A friend of the 59-year-old Joss has said that Joss and Sea Alvarez were neighbors and the two had argued for years. Initially, San Antonio police had said there was no evidence indicating the shooting was related to Joss's sexual orientation. But San Antonio Police Chief William McManus later walked back that statement, saying it had been premature and that whether Joss's sexual orientation played a role in the shooting was part of the investigation. The district attorney's office said in a statement Wednesday that Celia Alvarez is charged with murder, which is the most serious charge applicable to this crime under Texas law. As this case is still pending, no additional details or information can be released at this time. Under Texas law, a hate crime, if there is a conviction, would be handled as an enhancement during sentencing and not as a separate charge. Joss was the voice of John Redcore, a Native American character on the popular King of the Hill animated series, which ran for 13 seasons from 1997 to 2008. A reboot of the show, which Joss had already worked on, premiered in August. Joss also had a recurring role on the television show Parks and Recreation, playing Chief Ken Haltate. He appeared in 2 episodes of the series Tulsa King in 2022. So we're still waiting on whether there's enough evidence to be filed as a hate crime or not in the great state of Texas. I'll be sure to bring that information to you when I get it. Next up, a former snowboarder is wanted for orchestrating the murder of a witness. A former Olympic snowboarder for Canada who was wanted by authorities for running a multinational drug trafficking network is facing additional charges in connection with the killing of a federal witness, according to Attorney General Pam Bondi on Wednesday. 10 other defendants have been arrested on charges in the federal indictment unsealed in California that accuses Ryan Wedding of orchestrating the January killing of a witness in Colombia to help Wedding avoid extradition back to the United States. Authorities are now offering up to $15 million for information leading to the arrest of Wedding, who was on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. He is believed to be living in Mexico under the protection of the Sinaloa cartel, with whom authorities say he is working closely to funnel massive quantities of drugs into Canada and the United States. Whether you're a street-level drug dealer or an international drug kingpin, we are coming for you, Bondi told reporters. We will find you, and you will be accountable and held to justice for your crimes. Wedding, whose aliases include El Jefe, Public Enemy, and James Conrad King, was charged in 2024 with running a drug ring that moves some 60 tons of cocaine a year, using long-haul semi-trucks to bring drugs between Colombia, Mexico, Southern California, and Canada. Authorities say Wedding and his co-conspirators used a Canadian website called The Dirty News to post a photograph of a witness so he could be identified and killed. The witness was then followed to a restaurant in Medellin in January and shot in the head. Wedding placed the bounty on the victim's head, and the erroneous belief that the victim's death would result in the dismissal of criminal charges against him and his international drug trafficking ring, and would further ensure that he was not extradited to the United States. He was wrong, said Bill Esseley, the top federal prosecutor for the Central District of California. The U.S. government is also offering rewards of up to $2 million for others involved in the killing of the witness. If I can pull this back up via the FBI's website. In fact, I can. Watch this. I'm about to pull this information up on the FBI's website right now, guys. And this is going to be, this is under the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. Got it. let me go ahead and share that poster for you guys, because this is highly important for you to see. And the image that Court TV is providing, although it's good information, is rather small for you. Okay. This is the guy they're looking for, Ryan James' wedding. And here's all the details. He's gone under the aliases of James Conrad King, Jesse King, Giant, Public Enemy, Boss, Buddy, Grande, El Jefe, El Hierro, and El Toro. Born September 14, 1981. He has brown hair, blue eyes, stands 6'3", 240 pounds. He's Canadian, and he speaks both Spanish and English. The United States Department of State's Narcotics Rewards Program is offering a reward of up to $15 million for information leading to the arrest and/or conviction of Ryan James' wedding. As I mentioned, he's a Canadian citizen who may be residing in Mexico. He's wanted for allegedly running and participating in a transitional drug trafficking operation that routinely shipped hundreds of kilograms of cocaine from Colombia through Mexico and Southern California to Canada and other locations in the United States. Additionally, it is alleged that Wedding was involved in orchestrating multiple murders in furtherance of these drug crimes. If you have any information concerning this person, please contact the FBI via WhatsApp, Signal, or Telegram, neither of which is government operated or government controlled platforms. You can use those platforms with area codes 424-495-0614. You can also contact your local FBI office, or you can submit your tip online at tips.fbi.gov. And the same thing goes for missing for this case as it would for missing persons. As always, if you see something, please say something. That way we can do something. We can bring Ryan James' wedding to justice. Olympic snowboarder. and he brought himself to the level of being a drug trafficker. Unbelievable. Next up, we're under verdict watch. The Thanksgiving Eve murder trial, case of Florida versus Darrell Walker. If we have the video, we'll take you right inside so you can hear the verdict firsthand. That we do. Okay, we're going to take you right into the courtroom to learn
We have a verdict in the state of Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. The defendant, Daryl Walker, he is accused of shooting and killing his wife during an argument after she found out that he had contracted an STD with another woman. Second-degree murder is the top charge. Let's go into the courtroom and watch together.
Everyone, please be seated. Behind the record, the flag states here with counsel, defendants here with his counsel. Members of the jury understanding you reach the verdict. Is that correct? Are you the foreperson? And that court security form. Thank you. Let me see counsel real quick, please.
Okay, sidebar there. We know what has happened is we're being told the jury foreperson did not date the verdict form. So the judge is going to send them back to just do that. That'll take a few seconds. Ashley Bargain-Quest watching along with the jury. This is he says it was an accident. He said his wife found out that he had an STD. Said it was early it was late at night. They were in bed. She, as he said, got frisky. He said, told her that he had an STD. She got a gun. This chaotic scene, as the defense attorney framed it in closing arguments, ensued, and she ended up dead. Second degree is the top charge. Oh, I've been told that the verdict form's in good shape. Let's go back in.
Ms. Smith, if you'll hand that to them, please, thank you. Let's have the record flag states here with counsel, defendants here with his counsel. All right, the verdict appears to be in proper order. Madam Clerk, please publish the verdict. Walker, please stand to accept the jury's verdict.
In the Circuit Court in and for Escambia County, Florida, State of Florida plaintiff versus Daryl Jerome Walker, defendant, clerk number 1723 CF 004959A, Division E. Verdict. We, the jury, finds as follows as to the count charged in the information. Guilty of second-degree murder as charged. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally discharge a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, and as a result of the discharge of the firearm, was death caused to Sheena Levine? Yes. So say we all, this 21st day of November, foreperson, juror, Heather Smith.
Any request of counsel, state?
No, Your Honor.
Defense? No. All right. If y'all have a seat, please. No. Definitely.
Daryl Walker, convicted of second-degree murder in the death of his wife. Let me break that down for you. A jury found Daryl Walker guilty of second-degree murder in the death of his wife, Sheena Levine, who was found shot to death in the home the couple shared on November 22nd, 2023, 2 years ago today. Following the jury's verdict, Daryl was sentenced to life without parole. Daryl also pleaded no contest to a severed charge of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, which he was given a concurrent sentence of 15 years. Daryl's daughter, Lyric Walker, said her father called her just after 5 a.m. saying he had beeped up and she needed to come to his house. Lyric and her brother, Daryl Jr., drove over and found the front door of their parents' home locked. After banging on the door, it eventually opened and revealed Levine lying on her side by the bathroom door covered in blood. Lyric told police that her father was also covered in blood. Daryl refused to answer questions about what happened instead grabbed a gun and said, "Baby, I gotta go. I can't go to jail," before running out of the home and disappearing. Daryl was not permitted to own a weapon after a previous felony conviction for driving with a suspended license, according to court documents. Lyric told police that her father had purchased the gun she saw him take from the home a couple of months before the shooting. And according to the way Ted Rollins of Court TV opened that clip up of the verdict, he shot her because either he or she, I'm trying to remember, I'm trying to remember it correctly, contracted an STD. Let me quickly break down, if I can, the closing arguments from each. The state said the state argues that the defendant didn't call 911 or the ambulance after the shooting. The victim and defendant argued frequently, according to testimony. The state doesn't need to prove intent to kill, only that it was a criminal act. There were 2 9mm guns in the house, one recovered from the victim's purse, the other given to the brother. The defendant claimed the victim got the gun, but the prosecutor argues he had possession. The defendant's interview statement doesn't align with other evidence in the case. The victim was found naked from the waist down in a tank top, contradicting the defendant's claim she was, quote, dressed up. The defendant was calm during the interview despite describing the traumatic event. The gun recovered was a .45 caliber, not a 9mm, as the defendant initially claimed. The defendant claimed the magazine was removed, but no separate magazine was recovered. Medical examiner testified entry wound was from the front, contradicting the defendant's claim the gun was behind the victim's head. The prosecutor argued this constitutes second-degree murder or manslaughter through culpable negligence. In the defense closest argument, the defense argues the state failed to provide alternative theory of what happened. The state attempted to shift burden of proof to the defense. Only 2 people know what really happened that night. The defendant gave voluntary statement to police describing the tragic accident. Evidence of a struggle in the apartment supports the defendant's account. The crime scene investigator spent only 10 minutes at the scene for her first lead investigation. The defendant's son altered the scene by removing the gun from the victim's purse. The defendant's son didn't mention seeing her father with the gun until almost 2 years later. Forensic evidence, in this case soot on the nightcap, was consistent with close-range shooting as the defendant described. The victim knew how to use firearms and had access to guns in the bedroom closet. The defendant was unfaithful and came clean to his wife, leading to a volatile argument. The defense argues the gun was introduced during a marital dispute and accidentally discharged, and state failed to prove case beyond a reasonable doubt. The state's rebuttal says that the prosecutor clarifies no requirement to prove intent or motive for second-degree murder. The defendant fled jurisdiction and only talked when caught and arrested. The defendant's reluctance during the interview suggests deception. Evidence of struggle and a live round in the kitchen indicates the defendant's worked the gun mechanism. The defendant's demonstration showed gun behind the victim's head, inconsistent with entry wound. Prosecutor argues defendant's actions show consciousness of guilt. If events didn't happen as defendant claimed, it wasn't an accident, but a violent marital dispute where the defendant introduced the gun. And once again, Darrell Walker was found guilty of second-degree murder in the shooting death of his wife. He was given a mandatory sentence of life in prison without parole. and Darrell pleaded no contest to a severed charge of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, for which he was given a concurrent sentence of 15 years. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got 2 words to wrap up this particular case. Justice served. Next up, we have the Holly Bobo investigation, detailed in Zach Adams' bid for a new trial. He is doing everything he can to get that new trial. The question at the end of the day is, will he get that new trial? Too long. A Tennessee man seeking to overturn his murder evidentiary hearing. On Wednesday, the 7th day of proceedings dug back into how Zach Adams' 2017 trial story was built, with testimony from a retired Memphis police officer who conducted his own private investigation, a Shelby County prosecutor from the trial team, and a former TBI agent who worked the investigation into Holly Bobo's murder for years. Zach is one of 3 men who were charged in Holly's 2011 murder, but the only one who went to trial. His brother, Dylan Adams, and Jason Autry accepted plea agreements in the case. Zach is asking the judge to overturn his conviction and order a new trial. Retired Memphis police officer Dennis Benjamin testified that he came on to the case in 2013 after a call from Holly's mother, Karen Bobo, and that at that point, his understanding of the investigation was that it was a mess. The court heard a February 2014 recording when Benjamin visited trial witness Victor Dinsmore at his Indiana home. In the recording, Dinsmore initially says he doesn't know anything that can help, denying any knowledge of Holly's murder. Benjamin soon tells Dinsmore there are 8 charges hanging over him, raising the specter of 3 charges carrying the chance of the death penalty. If you can't give me Holly's body, you're beep, Benjamin is heard telling Dinsmore. As the conversation continues, the same recording captures Benjamin asking Dinsmore who the weak link among the 3 was. Dinsmore calling Dylan the weak link and a punching bag, who is super weak and fragile. And Zach said Zach was laying low because he knew people were talking about him. Benjamin told the court he viewed his approach was as fishing and blowing smoke at times, claiming he was out of thousands of dollars on the case. When asked if he received any compensation, Benjamin initially said no, then quickly clarified that he had reimbursed some expenses, but his wife handled all that. When defense attorney Douglas Bates moved into questions about how Dylan ended up living in Benjamin's home after a federal gun case, Judge J. Brent Bradbury cleared the courtroom, citing a prior court sealing order. When a hearing reopened to the public, Benjamin's appearance had concluded. Shelby County District Attorney Paul Hagerman, who helped prosecute the 2017 trial under lead special prosecutor and now Judge Jennifer Nichols, took the stand after Benjamin. When asked whether Dylan's account can be squared with later cell tower mapping of phones linked to the men on the morning of April 13, 2011, Hagerman said he wasn't sure he could reconcile it, but added that he always viewed Dylan's statement's investigative weight as piecemeal and staccato, suspecting Dylan was providing spotty and incomplete information. Hagerman said the prosecution relied on Autry to supply the only detailed account of the killing at trial, testifying that without his cooperation against Mr. Autry himself was extremely limited, and calling his testimony critical to explaining the state's theory. He agreed. Autry ultimately received a substantially reduced sentence years after testifying against Adams, but firmly denied any unspoken plea agreement, insisting he only offered standard express understanding that truthful cooperation would be considered at sentencing, even though the formal plea paperwork did not arrive until long after Zach and Dylan's convictions. When Bates pressed Hagerman on whether the delay and the way Autry was held amounted to gamesmanship, Hagerman said he did not view it that way and testified that prosecutors were trying to be fair to Autry while also maintaining a desire to keep him in custody for as long as sort of was fair. Autry was arrested on weapons charges shortly after his release from custody in September 2020, receiving a nearly 20-year federal sentence that was upheld by a federal appeals court in August. Bates also questioned Hagerman about a bank ATM video from Parsons, Tennessee, which is now at the center of Zach's new evidence claims. The clip timestamped at 11:12 a.m. on April 13, 2011, appears to show a Chevrolet Silverado consistent with Dylan's truck, making a transaction. Crucially, this occurred during a window Autry placed at the Tennessee River in his trial testimony. Hagerman said he reviewed a large volume of surveillance footage while preparing for trial and probably saw that clip at the time, but has no clear memory now of how that specific video or how it was labeled in the state's digital files. This article goes onward and onward. But the thing is, though, that investigation was detailed, yet in the follow-up, Zach Adams did testify, and he denies killing Holly Bobo. Trying to catch this before the video begins. Okay, good. All right. Hearing, denying and tying his alibi to a bank ATM stop he says investigators never fully documented. Adams, serving life without parole plus 50 years, told Hardencourt County Circuit Judge J. Brent Bradbury he had no relationship with Bobo beyond having her mother, Karen Bobo, as his fourth grade teacher. Under direct examination by post-conviction attorney Crystal Etu, he gave flat denials when asked if he kidnapped, raped, or murdered Bobo. The evidentiary hearing, which began in May 2025, centers on Adams' claims that his trial lawyers were ineffective and that the state failed to secure or further explore potentially exculpatory evidence. Adams placed himself at a Parsons, Tennessee bank ATM at about 11 a.m. on April 13, 2011. He testified that he was driving his brother Dylan Adams' white Chevrolet Silverado with friend Shane Austin in the passenger seat and Dylan in the back. He described backing the truck into the drive-through lane so Austin could reach the machine from the passenger side without having to lean across the cab. Adams told the court that the mysterious surveillance images that showed a pickup consistent with Dylan's truck, but did not clearly show who was inside. He said the bank's customer-facing ATM camera, which he believes would have captured Austin at the keypad and perhaps himself and his brother Dylan inside the truck, was never collected or properly preserved by TBI investigators. Adams argued that if footage had been obtained and played for the jury at his 2017 trial, it would have supported his timeline and location that morning. The state has maintained in the post-conviction proceedings that agents turned over all available video and that no recording exists that clearly identifies the occupants of the truck. Under cross-examination, special counsel Amy Weirich, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, count it to my head, not to my heart. Special counsel Amy Weirich walked Adams through his history of heavy drug use in 2011. Adams acknowledged daily use of marijuana, morphine, methamphetamine, benzodiazepines such as Xanax and Valium, and agreed he was both using and selling drugs during that period. He said his drug use was so extensive that days often ran together, and testified that his memory at the bank stop was triggered later when he was still shown still images from the ATM lane. Weirich contrasted that with phone records showing repeated calls between Adams and co-defendant Jason Autry on the morning Bobo disappeared, pressing him on why he now remembers backing into the ATM lane in detail, but cannot recall the substance of those calls. Adams maintained that frequent phone contact with Autry was normal in their drug-using circle, and denied any discussion about disposing of the body. He continued to testify that he had nothing to do with Holly Bobo's kidnapping, rape, and murder. The hearing was scheduled to continue on Friday, and Judge Bradbury will later issue a written ruling on the petition. So we wait and see what comes next for Zach Adams. Next up, this is crazy. An ex-congressional aide is accused of staging a violent attack in New Jersey. Now, why and would you want to do that? A New Jersey woman is facing federal charges after she allegedly staged Green, charged with one count of conspiracy to convey false statements and hoaxes, and one count of making false statements to federal law enforcement, according to a press release from federal prosecutors. Both charges carry a sentence of up to 5 years in federal prison. Prosecutors allege Green and a co-conspirator staged a violent physical assault on July 23, 2025, on a trail at a nature preserve in Egg Harbor Township. Green claimed 3 men attacked her and knew her by name, including her job in the federal government. NBC News reported Green worked as a congressional staffer to Representative Jeff Van Drew at the time of the incident. When police arrived on the scene, Green's hands were zip-tied and her shirt was pulled over her head. Evidence photos showed multiple lacerations on her face, neck, and chest. The words "Trump whore" were written on her stomach, and "is racist" was written on her back. Prosecutors say an investigation revealed Green wasn't actually attacked. Instead, paid a body modification scarification artist to make the markings on her body. Officers also found zip ties in Green's car. Green made her first court appearance on Wednesday and was released on a $200,000 bond. I mean, you're looking to get attention, but you want to get it that way? Really? Okay, you got it. You got all the attention you want. Here's the catch though. You're in federal court, which means what you're being accused of, carries a lot of weight. If you go down, you're going down hard, Miss Green. All right, we have a sentencing right now. Well, actually, two sentencings to wrap up this edition of Saturday Night's Main Event and to seal the deal on this fully reloaded weekend. First up, a judge sentences Stephen Merkel for the death of his 8-year-old stepson. What is Merkel's fate? I believe we are going into the courtroom to find that out. Or maybe not. A judge sentenced Stephen Merkel to 25 years in prison during an emotional hearing where the victim's family was sentenced after pleading guilty to first-degree reckless homicide in connection with the shooting that killed his stepson, 8-year-old Michael Meager. The courtroom was filled with raw emotion as family members delivered victim impact statements before Judge Christine Detuan imposed a sentence. It's been an absolute nightmare, Meager's mother said through tears. The depression, the anger. The mother described the devastating impact of losing her son, telling Merkel directly how the shooting destroyed their family. I will never get to see my son again because of what you did, she said. Other family members also addressed Merkel during the hearing, expressing their grief and anger over the loss of their loved one. Merkel's defense attorney argued for a lighter sentence, citing his client's remorse and personal circumstances. However, the prosecution pushed for a significant prison term, emphasizing the severity of the crime and its impact on the victim's family. Before imposing a 25-year sentence, Judge Detuan acknowledged the family's profound loss while also considering the legal factors in the case. You kill an 8-year-old child, and you expecting a light sentence? No, sir. No, sir. And even I believe I have to go on record and say I believe that 25 years isn't enough either. But I guess that's the way things go in Wisconsin. You have a certain match you have to meet. But otherwise, still, 25 years, justice served. And speaking of which, final story on the docket: an Iowa man is sentenced for killing his ex-girlfriend's mother and injuring her father. Maybe we can see that one if it's not too long. And was sentenced to life in prison after killing in October. 25-year-old Hamza Smalovic pleaded guilty to the charges of first-degree murder and attempted murder in connection with the November 1st, 2024 shooting that killed Ruth Robinson and critically injured her husband, Tony Robinson. Smolovic's plea happened moments before jury selection was scheduled to begin his trial. On Friday, Smolevic was sentenced to life in prison without parole for the murder of Ruth and a consecutive 25 years for the attempted murder of Tony. According to police, the Robersons were at a Des Moines home helping their daughter Jasmine Robeson pack her belongings when Smolevic opened fire. In court, Smolevic admitted to shooting Ruth and Tony in the head with the intent to kill. Jasmine, who lived at home with Smolevic, was not injured in the shooting. In her victim impact statement, Jasmine alleged years of abuse suffered at Smolovic's hands and called him a big loser. Tony read a poem to his late wife during the sentencing, describing her as a devoted mother who had been looking forward to future milestones with her family. Other family members and friends also spoke about the alleged abuse suffered during their relationship and the impact of losing Ruth. In handing down his sentence, the judge said he could count on one hand the number of times he had gone against the sentence proposed in a plea agreement. Prosecutors had proposed that Smolovic's sentence run concurrently in their plea agreement. The judge rejected that and sentenced Smolevic to consecutive sentences. Life plus 25 years. All for murdering your ex-girlfriend's mother and attempting to murder your ex-girlfriend's father. Life plus 25 years. Now that is justice served. Ladies and gentlemen, before I go ahead and wrap this up, this is now time for my closing argument to wrap up a fully reloaded weekend. Now, yesterday I let you know that I was an outlaw in my opening statement. And I was not going to sit back and be tame. I wouldn't be silent, and I would not be safe in my reporting for this. So tonight, as we wrap up this edition of Saturday Night's Main Event and this fully reloaded weekend, a common thread in this week's stories remains crystal clear. Choices have consequences, and justice demands a reckoning. The courts have spoken, but our role is to remember. Remember the victims. Remember the families of those victims. And to remember the dignity of every life. This week's headlines are a harrowing reminder that justice is not only about punishment, it's about preserving truth. May we lead a resolve to live as witnesses of integrity and accountability. That's going to do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you all for joining me this week. I want to thank you all for joining me over the last couple of days for this fully reloaded weekend. And as I started to mention earlier, there will not be any BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded of any kind during this Thanksgiving week. In fact, as I'm looking at my calendar, if I can, I won't do another BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded until Wednesday, December 3rd. Wednesday, December 3rd for the Mid-Week Byte. So I'll be definitely present for that. So for now, I wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much. Enjoy time with your family And I will see you back here for the Midweek Byte on December 3rd. Until then, I'm Ernest Bethea, the last Outlaw, and this is going to conclude a fully reloaded weekend. And this is BETHEA'S BYTE. And it's reloaded.
Thank you all for joining me here at the drama-free true crime destination. Be sure to follow BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded all over social media and get your coverage of true crime news with no gimmicks, no drama, and no BS. This is BETHEA'S BYTE, and it's reloaded.